So I just saw Transformers Rise of the Beast, or as I'm calling it, Transforming Beasts and Where to Find Them. Let's talk about it. Spoilerific time. Unicron is in this. In a big way, pun intended. Literally, the story starts with Unicron coming to destroy the planet that the Maximals are on. Now, it makes you believe that it's happening on purpose, not just random occurrence, because the main MacGuffin for this movie is the transwarp thingy. Transwarp crystal thingy that allows you to travel anywhere in space and apparently time. So the Maximals have it. Unicron wants it by chance. So it's like he sends Scourge and the Terracons down after the planet. Because usually it says that they go there to scout the planets, make sure they're good, and then Unicron eats them anyways for energy and for fuel. But he needs the transwarp doohickey to get around the galaxy, even though we see him getting around the galaxy. He has a big planet-y thing, but he can move on his own. And we do see some interaction between him and Scourge directly, which is actually kind of cool. Scourge honestly feels a little imposing, whereas Unicron doesn't, because you would think that they would have given him like this gigantic voice with bravado and echo and sense of size and power. No, he sounds just as loud as Scourge does, and sounds just as threatening as Scourge does. But I like the fact that he has a telepathic link to him, so he can like fuck with him in the same way he did to Galvatron back in the '86 movie. After he made him Galvatron, I should say. But that's pretty much it. And then so the Maximals get their asses handed to them by Scourge and his other two people, because there's literally only the other two, and then the faceless army of whatever they are. And then the main Maximal force that we see is only four. The main four, so we got Primal, Rhinox, Cheetor, Airazor. We see those four specifically, and they're already animals, not on Earth. They are Earth-based animals, not on Earth. And they are also gigantic. They're not small. You know, they are big-ass creatures. They escape on a ship/pod into space, or into the transwarp conduit, and they land on Earth. Apparently kind of ancient Earth. And apparently somewhere near Peru. But that doesn't matter much. So the weird thing is that they sort of established that transwarp can take you anywhere you want to go. And they sort of allude to the time travel aspect that Beast Wars had as well. Because when the Maximals and the Autobots meet for the first time, he tells Optimus that we are advanced robotic beings from your future, but also your past. With no other explanation. So we are, and he says that I got my name from you. So Primal mentions that he's named after Optimus Prime, and he's actually at some point let down because he's now met Optimus Prime, and he lets him down. He's like, this is the greatest leader of Autobots history, which this Optimus is not, because that war hasn't happened yet. Either way. So from there, from that point, it seems like this is one of the problems. When you want to reference a big thing from the cartoon and you don't know what the hell you're talking about, and you make sure that the Maximals are from the future, but they land on Earth in the past, but Scourge comes to Earth now with the How did Scourge get to Earth? They kind of make it seem like transwarp is one of the only ways to get around. And Unicron apparently can't get around without it. Apparently he's stuck wherever he's at, in whatever part of the galaxy, or what other galaxy, because they mentioned that. He never had the transwarp thingy, but he needs the transwarp thingy, so he's an ancient god. all this immense power, even to grant dark energy and unlimited strength to his minions, can't get around the galaxy to just keep eating planets, even to the point he says, I'm starving. Makes him very much like Galactus, which is interesting. So, it's very Galactus, very Silver Surfer. He sends him on as his thing. Sends him ahead. And from there, he kicks the shit out of Prime. He kicks the shit out of everybody else. Ends up killing Bumblebee. Like, flat out killing Bumblebee. I didn't know they were going to do that. They sort of show it in the trailer. But they kill him. So, no Bumblebee in the future. Except that we clearly see him in the final battle. And I'm going to talk about that right now. Everyone is getting their asses handed to them. Massive army is beating down our, 8, good robots. And then you get Bumblebee flying in on the other Autobot that's on Earth that nobody cares exists. The largest Autobot that's on Earth. He's a giant airplane and he's flying everyone. He's not Jetfire, because we wouldn't do that. In fact, I've already forgotten his name. He's just Big Plane Guy that everybody's like, oh no, not him. And then they get on board multiple times, and then you only see him transform one other time. So anyways, he drops off Bumblebee in his new off-road Camaro form, wherever that came from, into the battlefield, and he just comes in and just completely kicks ass. Literally, as though he could have cleaned up the battlefield on his own. He shoots down all these things raining down from Unicron. He hits the battlefield, just starts slaughtering the faceless minion, spider, scorpion, whatever they are, and then saves everybody's life over and over until eventually, he becomes slightly more important. But Bumblebee is not meant to be as important because this is not Bumblebee's movie. This is Mirage's movie. This is why we kill Bee in the first act. So, Mirage gets found by Noah by accident. Noah has fallen on hard times with his family. He's an ex-military guy who apparently got in trouble and can't get a job at this one place, which is one of the few woke things they kind of do in this movie. And, because Hollywood can't not do woke things, they did include stuff like the two main protagonists that are both people of color who, have really either a shitty white boss or a shitty white interview boss who says something vaguely racist, except he wasn't trying to be racist. He was trying to point out the fact that dude is flaky and unreliable and distracted at work. And because it's a security job, you can't be that way. But the way it was phrased, which means how it was written, was meant to sound like he was being racist towards Noah, who's Puerto Rican. The one thing they could have just kind of avoided if they wanted to. But either way. So, Noah gets talked into stealing a car from some rich people at a thing. Just is what it is. And, but by generic black villain guy, he's not really a villain, he's just a crook, with his fancy car, who can't even pay for cable. So we established that Noah is good with electronics and communications. That would have been awesome to be a part of the main plot. No, not really. Not really going to do that. So, either way, the car that he's going to steal is clearly going to be Mirage, because he passes up all these other really fancy cars in the garage, and there's the Porsche that is clearly meant to be Jazz, but they couldn't afford Jazz, so they went with Mirage, and then gave him Hound's powers. So, as of recording this, I have found out, of course, that G1 in the comics Mirage did have full-on illusion and hologram powers, much like they did with Hound in the G1 cartoon, but Hound wasn't the originator, Mirage was. So, yes, I know that now. Save your comments. Right. Hence amusing scene where he gets kidnapped by Mirage because the transwarp thingy's been woken up at the museum by our female protagonist. Is it Helena? I think it's Helena. Trying to remember how to pronounce it. Sorry, that's just me. Where she discovers this eagle or falcon statue that came from somewhere, and it's got mysterious markings on it. That's a maximal emblem. And then she does this when everyone leaves, and she goes into the lab she's not supposed to go into because conveniently left behind ID tag. She scans this thing with technology that definitely didn't exist in 1994, and it activates the transwarp thingy. And so it sends out this plume of stuff that only Autobots can see, and apparently Terracons, that do the thing from the early Transformers movies and just rain down in like little meteors, and then they just underwater until they are no longer underwater, and nobody sees this. No, to quote CinemaSins, no one who watches the skies for a living notices these meteors crashing into the Hudson. And no one who uses boats for a living notices weird underwater lights in the Hudson. So either way, we end up with a big showdown outside of the museum. That's where Bumblebee dies. That's where Prime gets his ass handed to him, and where our two human protagonists end up together. And now we're on the same mission together. We escape with everyone, including RC and Bumblebee, who have joined the fight. So, yeah, RC is now on Earth and is a motorcycle because we can't make her a cool car. And of course, we do have Mirage, who is played by Pete Davidson, loudly. Definitely loud. We have Optimus, who doesn't trust humans at all and doesn't want anyone involved to do these things, and he feels bad about losing the war on Cybertron, and now that his people are stuck on Earth for the last 7 years, can't get home. Meaning, there was a way that the Autobots ended up on Earth. At least the 6 that we see that have ended up on Earth and can't leave. Now, we know with on the Bumblebee movie, they all kind of escaped in these pods/ships, and then at least Bumblebee crashed on Earth. We know Cliffjumper was somewhere out in the universe. We don't know where anyone else landed, but we know that at the end of the movie, Optimus was on Earth. Because, even though he specifically only sent B to Earth. For the first time. The other movies are not in this timeline. Stop thinking they are. But he's a Camaro. He doesn't even look the same. Either way. So, and I think that was the biggest problem. They wanted to be able to have the Bumblebee recognition, so they made him a Camaro, just like he was. And then they changed his design. He's not even as tall as he used to be. He's not as beefy as he used to be. But he's incredibly agile and powerful for a quote-unquote scout. Either way. So, with Mirage, if some haven't been talking about him much, he talks a lot. Like, a lot. He likes movies. He likes pop culture references. He talks to Noah like he's just a dude. Cool. By the way, Noah has a sick little brother. It's important. They have a cool relationship. He calls Noah Sonic. He calls him Tails. There's Nintendo references. There's a bunch of stuff. It's interesting. So, when Noah decides to help the Autobots, this is one of the dumbest things they did in this movie. Apparently, Mirage can just take the shape of anything. Like, no joke, he is a Porsche, and then he transforms into a... What does he transform into first? Hold on. He says he transforms into a Ferrari, but you don't see it. Then he transforms into an F1 car because they want to say fuck you to the fans, because he's in the F1 car looks like Mirage from the thing. And then he transforms into Lamborghini. So he transforms into a Countach, a Ferrari, and an F1 car. That is more than just a reference to him. I think that is, in fact, a reference to a specific Decepticon team who also had a Lamborghini, a Ferrari, and an F1 car. Interesting that. So, that was annoying. And then he says, okay, well, we got to sneak into this place. How are we going to get there? Oh, I know. I can just change form. So he turns from a small sports car into a gigantic dump truck. I'm sorry, garbage truck. And it's not an illusion. It's not one of his holograms that he can cast. He has transformed into a full-size garbage truck that is larger than Optimus Prime. And then he transforms right back to being his normal little Porsche self. Nobody else in this movie does that. So after getting their asses handed to him, Airazor comes in out of nowhere because she was summoned by the thing. Because she was referenced in the hawk/eagle statue. And she comes in, and apparently the Maximals are more powerful than the Autobots, by far. Because they actually can put up a decent fight against all three Terracons. Which, by the way, I don't even know that the other truck, the yellow truck guy, was even named in the movie. Nightbird, I think, was mentioned once. And, where the Terracons get their alt modes, no one knows. We've got, a big rig, a tow truck, and a Skyline. Which I did check. It is the correct year for when this happens. I thought it was going to be an anachronism. They got that part right. So we never see them getting alt modes. They just have them. Because after we discover that, they have the transwarp piece. There's 2 pieces, by the way. Sorry, you thought it was just going to be one. It's never just one MacGuffin. Are you kidding me? So we get half a MacGuffin. Got to go find the other MacGuffin. Once again, Helena is the only one who can figure these things out. And so she determines it's in Peru. Let's go to Peru. And then Airazor mentions that she and the other Maximal split up to hide the pieces. We haven't seen each other in a really long time. Which, by the way, most of this stuff dates back to 5,000 years ago. But they only talk about it as though it's been 500 years. Weird. So, they go to Peru after they summon the big flying boy. Which, once again, I forgot his name. I think it's Stratosphere? Something like that. I think it's something like that. Stratus something or other. I don't know. He's kind of an old dude. It's a weird-looking plane. It's definitely kind of a real-ish plane, but it's also an old plane. Where did he even scan this? Also, where did this dude come from? I think he's actually not animated. I think he's an RAD character that they brought in. And, basically all he does is just move them from place to place. That's his character development. Hi, guys. I'm here to have a name and fly stuff. That's literally all he does. He's just the only thing big enough to transport them from one place to another. And because the Autobots just like it, they're sitting inside the big airplane in robot mode instead of in vehicle mode, which is significantly more compact. And by the way, don't ever worry about seeing RC's vehicle mode again. You won't. You get it at the beginning, she transforms, and then she never transforms again. She just rides around in her robot form inside of other people. They land in Peru, and they are now met by the other Autobot that's on Earth, which is Wheeljack. And by the way, Wheeljack literally looks nothing like the last time we saw Wheeljack. So Wheeljack in the Bumblebee movie looked very G1 Wheeljacky. The weird things on the side of his face, the right colors, the white, the red, the green, all that. And this time they made him look like a Volkswagen bus that looks like Urkel and talks like someone from South America. To the point that our Puerto Rican human friend comments on why does a robot have that accent. He said, what accent? I'm going to say this now. The dumbest part of this movie is what they did with Wheeljack. It's it was almost like deliberate hate of Wheeljack, and it makes no sense. So, we deal with that. We go into this ancient city in Peru, and we need to get to that church and temple over there that's built over the ancient city. And the thing is below the city, but we got to find it before Scourge does. Where is Scourge? Oh, literally in the city. Waiting. And I love the fact that Noah is the audience, and he goes, why don't we not find this thing? Because then they won't find it. And if we do find it, we should probably destroy it so they can't have it. He's literally the voice of reason, and everything he says makes sense, and everything that he says comes true. even to the point that at the end they have to destroy the thing instead of using it for their purpose, because they like to lay on that Prime is full of guilt and wants to fix this. And even though he's lost people, he lost the so-called war for Cybertron, that he wants to go back home, and the only way to do it is with the transwarp thingy. Only way to do it. Because we don't know how any of the rest of them got to Earth in the first place, including Prime himself. Or how the Terracons got to Earth. Because they just crashed down like meteors. Apparently you can't go up that way. And yeah, nobody else can fly except for Airazor. Which, by the way, Airazor gets tagged by Scourge on her way out. And it just looks like she's just going to get affected by it, like some cosmic rust. Nope, it's corrupting her. Because you know that has to happen. She's useful and helpful up until she's not. She introduces the Maximals and the Autobots together by chance. After they find out the other transwarp thing is missing. After they explore the ancient city. Yay! Fight on the side of a mountain between vehicles where people will disappear and reappear on the side of the mountain as they're fighting. It's fine. Don't look too close at it. Honestly, you can't really look too close at anything because most of them, if they're not named Prime or Mirage, are not on screen long enough to notice any details. And if they are, in fact, a Terracon, don't worry about their details. Yeah. And then when they're fighting, good luck. Good luck. They just look like, piles of metal hitting each other, and a lot of fast cuts and stuff like that. So that's the tropes that they still follow even on this movie. Whereas the Bumblebee movie, I think, did a really good job of making them stand out. There was a lot of daytime shots. Even when they were fighting at night, it was pretty easy to understand. And, of course, the coolness of the fact we had triple changers in the last one. So, from here, plot happens. This is where the Maximals tell the Autobots, like, we're from your future, but we're not. We're actually from the past, because we're from the future, but we ended up in the past here. Why can't they just do the story? Why does it have to take place at all in modern day? Why does it have to involve humans constantly? Now, I know Spike and Sparkplug were involved, and they had a few more people along the way in G1, but for the most part, it was Transformer stories. And that would matter a lot, except we have to, like, we can sympathize with the big robot people without having to have little humans along the way to tell us how we're supposed to feel. And be our eyes and ears. We have our own eyes and ears. We can see what's happening. They have emotion, just like us. By the way, I said Wheeljack was the thing that annoyed me the most. Prime has a nose. Like, he already had a pretty intricate face design. What they did with this was really weird. His lips move like a multi-piece thing that does this, and he has a nose. And then his battle mask, instead of just going... or he's like super complicated battle mask. Just leave the battle mask and let it just, all it has, he doesn't need lips. And I guess if they want to do it, they can't be doing it for hearing impaired people. They can't, because it's really, really hard to read the lips of something that's non-organic when you've learned to read lips of humans. Except RC definitely says, "Oh, fudge," at one point. But you don't hear it because there's music. So, we now have all our good robots in one place. The bad robots are nearby. Airazor is turning evil, because that's what we do here. And by the way, we never see her robot mode. She only is in Hawk mode. So they need to find the other piece, and they're like, well, it was taken. And they're like, yeah, we moved it a while ago. Well, where did you take it? To these people that we've lived with for hundreds of years. And the three of you stayed right here. Okay. But Air Razor's over there. And then they allude to there being other Maximals that died along the way. Like, Air Razor must have had a team, but the other ones died. Somehow? Question mark? Had we seen other ones come in and die, say, to rescue the Autobots, that probably would have been meaningful. But to just think that somewhere along the way, Maximals died on Earth that people don't know about. Because they've been there for thousands of years, seemingly. Because the sculpture that they found the other piece in, they said it was like 5,000 years old. Meaning they've been there for a really long damn time, just sort of hiding in the jungles around the world. You know, being gods, you know, godlike creatures, spoken of in whispers, stuff like that. And then, of course, they're in the Valley of Energon, because there's Energon on Earth, in case you haven't remembered that. And they got Bumblebee's dead body with them, and they're like, can it revive him? No, it would take a greater power than we have to reactivate him. Okay. And then they're like, well, now that they have... So another quick battle ensues where Air Razor turns on them. Primal has to kill her, which is legitimate sad. And then they get the other piece, and then the Terracons fuck off to this giant volcano that's right there. An enormous, evil-looking volcano. It's just right there. So they go immediately to there, and they put the two pieces of the thingy together. It starts glowing and making noise, and all of a sudden this enormous array comes out of nothing, and this is our new transwarp tower thingy, which actually looks a bit like the old school space bridge tower from G1, which I believe is what they're referencing. And because they can't call it a space bridge because we've already done space bridging, we have to call it transwarp, which they did in Beast Wars. See how they do the things? So they activate the thingy. They're going to bring Unicron to Earth so he can eat. Unicron gets mad the first time because he's like, this isn't the whole thing, you moron. Bring me the whole thing or I'll rip you apart. Oh, God. If they had kept the idea that Unicron could be killed by the Primes and they needed Prime out of the way for that reason, fine. But they didn't want to kill Prime in this one. They wanted to kill Bumblebee in this one so Mirage could stand out. So... now we got to have our big climactic battle. Optimus is sort of got his head on straight. They make a plan. He tells Primal, you're in charge. You do the thing. And then immediately steps in and says what they're going to do. So, okay. So humans are going to crawl through these tiny tunnels that they know exist inside this giant array that has appeared out of nowhere, that has never been here before. But no Maximal can fit in it. What about the smaller Autobots? Could they fit in? No, just humans. So if you had no humans, what would we do here? We would get humans. So we'll distract them from the ground by starting a war with them. And that'll keep them busy while the humans get up there and do the thing. And then Mirage will go with them to help distract them as well. Because Scourge didn't go with. This is where it gets convoluted a bit. Okay, a lot. So, they fight the Faceless Hordes all together. You see the Maximals, Maximars. They're better off in their animal forms because at least they look like something. You cannot get a close-up look of any of the Maximals in robot form. Like, you get a couple short frames, maybe like 5-6 seconds of Primal at a somewhat decent thing as he's transforming. Cheetor, you never get a close look at. Rhinox, you never really get a look at. And they're monochrome. They're brownish colors. So everything, like brown and silver, it looks like nothing because everything around them is gray and brown. And they're fighting black or silver enemies. It's like, what the hell are they supposed to look like? So the fact that we have to look at the toys to even understand what the Maximals look like in this movie is sad. Like, they should just be able to stand out on their own. They should have transformed into bot modes earlier to go into the battlefield. And then we could have actually seen our two primes side by side looking pretty boss together. And then there's a couple moments back and forth between Prime and Primal. Like they kill the tow truck guy together, and then Prime is like, that one was mine. And Primal just smiles at him, even though he beat the head in on that guy. That was crazy. Nightbird eventually gets taken down somehow. I don't exactly recall, gonna be honest with you. Because I was like, okay, that one's dead too, is what it is. The important thing is to know that the humans fail at their job. They get caught, and now it's two humans on their feet, essentially trying to not be killed by Scourge, and you've got Mirage in the mix, trying not to die. He does die. Pretty much dies. Gets shot all to hell while basically trying to protect Noah. Dies on top of Noah, and then they go after Helena while she's trying to get to the console to turn the machine off, because there's a built-in code to turn that off, and only she knows this code, because literally she's the only one who knows anything in this movie. Remember the tech guy who could build anything and was great at communications? He sort of had a radio that got patched into Mirage. Oh, by the way, Mirage isn't dead. So Mirage sort of sacrifices himself to make exo armor for Noah, but it looks just like him, but smaller, with a helmet instead of a head, which is cool, but dumb. And because Iron Man, you get all of these things. So he tries to fight Scourge directly until Optimus comes up there to help. Eventually, everybody's getting their asses beat. We assume everyone's going to die. Here comes Stratoface with Bumblebee to come in to save the day, because this weird big blue energy boom shot out from the machine after the gate was open. There's no telling what that actually did, other than activate all the energon nearby, revitalizing and making Bumblebee live again. Because remember, he died. Bumblebee died in the first movie too, until they shocked him back to life, and then he was alive again. So we've established that killing is pretty easy, and bringing it back to life is also very easy. God, the more I talk about this movie, it's just crazy. And mind you, I just saw it, which is really, really insane. So basically, it comes down to Unicron is now almost completely at Earth. Nobody sees Unicron. They just see clouds and smoke coming out. They know something's going on in Peru, because how could you miss it? And then they end up just destroying the thing that they said they needed, because that is literally what every single Bayverse movie did with its MacGuffin. The thing that is the thing that will be the thing to rescue almost everyone and give them, the good guys, what they need, is the thing they have to destroy, because they have to give up on the dream of ever going home. It's really depressing. There's no reason that basically Optimus doesn't want to be a leader. And by the way, they do the opening and ending monologue from Optimus, as they usually do. I am Optimus Prime. Don't come to Earth. They don't like us here. So, basically, kill Scourge, ripped his face off, burned him alive, cut him into pieces, rip his head off. Pretty brutal, even though he couldn't manage it earlier. But he gets stabbed behind the knee, and therefore it's over when you hack the hinges. So Unicron gets forced back through the not space bridge, and then all the bad guys also get sucked through the thing. The entire tower gets sucked back through the thing. Optimus said, I'm going to sacrifice myself and be a good leader. And then Noah saves Optimus. With his human strength, he pulls the giant multi-ton robot back. And then Primal also helps. So we got Noah riding Optimus and Primal running to get away from all this, and then we get the heroic turnaround shot as it all goes away, and we never did this before. And then, we basically only lost Air Razor. That sucks. So it resets now. We've got human allies. Mirage is dead, but only up until the not quite mid credits, where he builds him a new Porsche body, and I guess integrates the suit into that body, because we see that he still has the suit later. So I guess he revives Mirage that way in front of his crook buddy. But by this time, Noah has been approached for a new job. Then you know something is up with this guy. So, and he's also in the trailer. So this was like the big spoiler for this movie in the immediate credits. So Noah goes for the job interview. It's not really going well, and then the guy immediately starts talking about what happened in Peru. And he's like, I know about your big friends. You know, you guys could be useful to us. You know, and he's like, well, how do you know about this? Well, we're like the super secret organization that protects the world from things terrestrial and non-terrestrial alike. And, you know, if you can think about a job with us if you want. But, you know, if you think about it, here's my card. By the way, you listen to your little brother. Really shouldn't use real names over the comms. Pulls this thing on the wall. Wall opens up. Giant hanger of super secret shit. And Noah turns over the card. And what do we see? The Hasbro Cinematic Universe has begun. Because G.I. Joe canonically now exists in the Bumblebee Bayverse Transformers universe. And we see them building a thing from a remnant of something. We don't know what the hell it is exactly. So that means G.I. Joe exists, which means Cobra's going to exist, which means we're going to have to get more Decepticons on Earth. Blah, 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 blah. Excitement. Yay. And then, of course, there was a teaser where after that where he rebuilds Mirage. I feel like that should have been there. Like, they don't want people to have to sit and wait. That scene with Noah going to the G.I. Joe interview should have been complete at the tail end stinger. And then mid-credits should have been him rebuilding Mirage and scaring the crap out of his friend. Like, so this movie was more of a setup for the fact that G.I. Joe already exists, and already has high-tech stuff, and is already monitoring everything coming and going on Earth. But because they could really use the Transformers' help, here's your big invite. So we don't need Nest. So this is the other reason I say that there's no way this takes place in the original timeline. It can't. It cannot lead to those movies. I don't care what another person said. It's like, well, we could kind of go there. No. G.I. Joe does not canonically exist in that universe. Nest exists in that universe. The Autobots don't leave Earth. They clearly would have had to have left Earth. You know, there's a huge laundry list of canonical problems between the Bumblebee timeline and the original timeline. And even with this, with Transwarp, they had the idea that they could have gone back in time and maybe changed some shit. And I think they were alluding to that at one point with Optimus. Said, like, if you could go back and fix your mistakes, wouldn't you do it? And that was like the idea that, okay, so what they're going to do is Optimus is going to go back through the Transwarp thing, back in time, change the outcome of that, how they escaped Cybertron and all this other stuff, and it would allude to the original Bayverse movies. Nope, they didn't do that, which was a big surprise, because I thought that would be, time travel would be the only way, or multiverse would be the only way they could swing that. And they didn't go there, and instead decided to give us an all-new universe to base stuff off of. So, new G.I. Joe movies, inbound in theory, because Hasbro, HasLab, all those things. But also could mean that the long teased and Mask movie could also be involved, because that would be a really fun and interesting crossover. Like somebody who has like some Autobot and Decepticon technology but can't make robots, but can make super upgraded vehicles. That would be fun as well. So there we go. There's your Transformers, Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Because frankly, this was not Rise of the Beasts. And by the way, the Beasts are still on Earth. They're not gone. They didn't all die. They're all still there. They just went back to Peru. Which, I guess back to is a word, but basically, you know, they've got a big old jet to haul them around and do whatever. They've got an invite from a super secret military force to come and work with them. They've got at least one or two human allies. Technically, Charlie still exists in this universe, so we could bring her back at any given point that Haley Steinfeld wants to do that, and please bring her back. Just because I am generally amused by her. But she's in a Marvel universe now, so who knows. And then we also have just a few other irons in the fire out there. And if there was like an extra stinger, I didn't stick around for it because, frankly, the lack of Decepticons made me sad. So I assume that now that Unicron has lost his Terracons, they could actually bring in the Decepticons to Earth and stuff like that, and we could allude to the greater things happening in the world. Because we don't even have a Megatron. We haven't even seen a Megatron in this universe, which was the other reason people thought this was going to be set in that same timeline. Megatron's already on Earth. I mean, maybe, but not in the same way. Sector 7 doesn't exist in this universe, and I think that the special forces that John Cena was involved in the first movie is the ones that led to G.I. Joe becoming a thing. I thought we were going to end up with the John Cena thing right at the end, even when because we didn't see the guy who was interviewing him for a second. I thought it was going to be John Cena. In fact, it was not, but that would have been nice because he would obviously fit in with the G.I. Joe everything. So there we go. That's it. That's this movie. Like I said, I think I'd give it like a 6.5 or a 7. On a good day. It was actually pretty good, just for the most part. I know it sounds like I talk negative about it because there's a lot of dumb things that happen, but there's also a lot of enjoyable stuff. Like the fights, while kind of hard to watch in the literal sense, were still pretty good. The villains kind of felt imposing because they literally couldn't beat them, but Unicron didn't feel big enough. I felt like if Unicron talked, he should be like gigantic booming voice. At one point, even Optimus yells at him, like yells up at him, and I think he says something back. I don't recall, but like when he's yelling at Scourge for screwing up, the screen should have been shaking. There should have been a lot of stuff, you know. And this movie's very loud, by the way. The explosions are pretty good. At least in the theater I was in, the sound system was cranked up to like 15. It was absurd. The 90s-ness was not lost on me, being, you know, based in 1994. They definitely made sure you knew we were in 1994. But I also feel like the world hopping is annoying. Like, we don't need to go all over the damn planet for these things. You could keep them somewhat close. And it was interesting to see that, in a way, that they have some ties to like some of the IDW comics ideas. You know, the next go around, it would be interesting if we got the headmasters in a very similar way, but we'd need Decepticons on Earth. And right now we don't know if we have any. So, all right, so enough of fixing this. I've already been doing this for long enough, so see you guys on the next one. I know it's been a while since I've done a movie review. I may or may not watch The Flash. We'll see. You know, this one I didn't necessarily want to see in a theater, but I did it anyway, so I'll check you guys later. Remember, as always, keep on nerding. I know I haven't said that in a long time.